Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hi, Bo.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Sorry, a couple of minutes late. Just waiting for the meeting to be started. Hope everyone's okay. Everyone can hear me clearly?
Yes. Yeah.
I can't hear you, Krishna Gopal. Oh, that's because you're on mute. It's okay.
Oh, no, can you hear me now, Prabhu?
Anyway, welcome everyone. Let's just see who's with us today. We got Hare Krishna. Welcome to London College of Vedic Studies, Ananda Leela, Bridge, Kurunuka, Paul, Krishna Gopal, Shobha Panchal, Yashwani, Mother, Soroj, Pashvadia. Please forgive me if I mispronounced your name, which I'm sure I might have. Anyway, so let's begin with prayers to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vistaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachaline Nivasesha Sunyavadi Pashtatara Satarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Katadha Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So I'm sure some devotees will be joining us as we begin. But let's begin by having, as usual, a review. But actually, before that, if anyone had any questions on chapter 8, which was offenses to be avoided, if you read over those and have questions, you're quite welcome to ask. Any questions come from that. Let me just check. Okay, something in the chat there. If not, if there's no questions, that's good. We can just, let's have a little review of chapter 9. So someone can just share with us what points you took home with you or what you took note of from chapter 9, which is further consideration of devotional principles. And it began with quite an important start to that chapter, which I added a couple of slides. Anyone can say what that discussion was about? If you can unmute. And or you can look there in the Nectar of Devotion. You probably got it there in your textbook. It's a subject that's spoke with a bit of trepidation by devotees, which is good in one sense. We should be careful of it. Anyone could say what it was, the beginning of chapter 9. Okay, I'll give you 5 seconds. 5.
Being more tolerant.
Yeah, if anyone's speaking, then I have to unmute.
Hare Krishna.
I can't hear anyone. Perhaps that's the problem. Perhaps it's me.
Hare Krishna.
I can't hear anyone.
Can you hear me?
I can see Yashwani, Mataji, you're speaking, but I can't hear you.
Oh.
Perhaps it might be my mistake, or it might be something going wrong on my end.
Please check your volume, maybe.
Sorry. Not you. 1 second.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, it's my fault. Someone else, I've got these new headphones and my computer went straight to my headphones, even though they're turned off. So please excuse me. Some of you are probably coming forward with some reviews. So yeah, let's start that question again. So chapter 9. How did it begin? We had
that a Vaishnava may be very tolerant and meek, but if it's something to do with defeating in an argument, you should be very firm.
Yeah, very good. And something that was there but were not advised to do as well. The subject was blasphemy, and one of the ones was to leave our body, wasn't it? Yeah. And we gave an example of that from the Srimad Bhagavatam, the wife of Lord Shiva. Yes, thank you. Yeah, yes, really much. And something, perhaps another point from chapter 9. Another important point. We spoke about submission, offering prayers, these 3 titles, offering prayers, humbly submitting oneself, and desiring some perfectional stage. And we mentioned some details about that. Desiring a perfectional stage is more something at higher levels of devotion, and humbly submitting oneself before the Lord, like that. And then, so at chapter 10, it's called Techniques of Hearing and Remembering. And we quoted, it was based on an important verse by Lord Brahma from the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, expecting the Lord's mercy. Did anyone take note of the essence of that verse? Let me check in the chat. This thing's coming up. Oh, yeah. Okay. Tatena kumpum, shushikshamano, bunjane evatman kripam pipakam, vidvak papade vidadam namaste, chivittiyo mukti patasya pak. So I'll just begin the verse, and probably someone can probably finish it. One should continue suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds, and at the same time, one should continue to okay, it's all quiet out there. That's just my microphone again. One should continue to offer their obeisances to the Supreme Lord with the body, mind, and words, even though one may be going through great difficulty. This is the mentality of, or this is the inner disposition of a devotee. Yeah? Even when they're put into tribulation, they see it as the results of their own past misdeeds. And it doesn't interrupt with their attachment and devotion to the Supreme Lord. Yeah? So we spoke about that very important point. And then we spoke about remembrance and the role it plays. Obviously, it plays a very important role. Swavanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. We have hearing, and the reason we hear, so we can chant, and the reason we hear and chant is so that we can remember the Lord, always remember the Lord, and never forget him. Yeah? And we mentioned about one Brahman in South India. What's the connection? What was this Brahman doing? Under the, yeah, I can hear.
Hare Krishna.
Anyone? Hare Krishna. Thank you, Shobha.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah,
Was he
please.
meditating all his service to Krishna, and then he burnt his finger? Is that the one?
Yeah, you've got it. That's the one. There's a Brahman in South India. He heard about this principle of Manasa Puja, it's called technically, where you can worship, if you don't have all the amenities to worship the Lord, then you can do so within the mind. And this Brahmana was a poor Brahmin, but very satisfied in his service to the Lord. So he did that for many years, and we gave, when we mentioned that pastime, we gave some details of that. And then eventually, Vishnu came and took him back to the spiritual world. So that's the power of remembrance. And he was doing that sudden for many, many years. Yeah. So then we went into chapter 11, which is aspects of transcendental service. Anyone can shed any light on this chapter, chapter 11?
We talked about Dasyam, Sakyam, and Atmanivedam.
Yeah, very good. Yeah. Servitorship, devotional service and friendship, and surrendering everything. Yeah. And we gave some details of that. Okay. So that's good. So then we began chapter 12. Now, what we're going to hope to complete today, which we should do, we're going to do chapter 12, chapter 13, and chapter 14, and that will complete. And we'll stop there because I think next week you have a exam beginning on chapters. Will it be? Padmana Nityananda Prabhu, we're up to 14, isn't it? Chapters 9 to 14 or 8 to 14. If you're there, Padmana Nityananda, you can perhaps let us know what the exam will be on. Okay, he's not there at the moment. Hopefully before the class ends, it'll be more clear, or you might have it in your notes already.
I think it's from chapter 2 to 14.
Chapter 2 to 14.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, you've got some revision to do. There's a few chapters there. Anyway,
When
they're
some chapters, Prabhuji, are very small, so they're just 1 or 2 questions after.
yeah, it's very easy. Yeah. So,
Prabhuji,
okay,
I
all right.
just wanted to ask, please, the
Yeah.
different, I can't understand, I tried to read Loliam and Lalsamai.
Which chapter you're reading that from?
From chapter 9, I think there are 2 words. It says define Loliam and Lalsamai.
Yeah, okay. Loliam is, first of all, Loliam is translated as a greed for Krishna. In essence, that's how we obtain Krishna. Simple fact is that you want Krishna. Yeah, that's called Loliam. Yeah, at the moment we're greedy for material things, or we have a mixture. We have some greed for Krishna and some greed for Maya as well. But eventually we just want to have greed for Krishna. So that's Loliam. And the other word was, just say that word again, Mother.
Lalsamai.
Yeah, Lala Shamayi. That means a great hankering for Krishna. That's spoken of in terms of where one has a intuitive understanding of their relationship with Krishna. It's at the stage of bhava, yeah, but they're not actually situated in that service. So lala ashmayi. So then they will pine and lament and desire to be serving Krishna. And that's exemplified very much in the prayers of Norton Das Thakur, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, where they speak about being reinstated in their position as a servant. And also D. Goswami's Rupa Goswami. Yeah, Lala Ashamayi. It means a great internal crying to be engaged in that service which has been revealed to them. Yeah, again, on a quite elevated stage of bhakti. All right.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so that was a nice review. So let's now, I'm going to share my screen and so to get this, I'll press a few buttons here. Let me see a bit of stuff on my. Now then, at this point, we're moving from the slides that you were sent or that you may have in front of you. Some of you may have them. Now we're moving over to using the slides which I've made up, because the slides after this were not available. So please don't get confused with that, with this. You may not have the slides there. If I can send them, if you like, after this. I should send them to Padmana Nityananda Prabhu, and you can probably download them. So, but for now, we're just going with the slides which I've made up, and you have to forgive me, I haven't put so many pictures there. Yeah, I didn't have much time to search up the pictures, so they may not be so elaborate. So yes, please do share the slides. Yes, perhaps I can share. I will try and share the slides during the break that we have at 2 o'clock. That reminds me, set my alarm for 2 o'clock. Okay. Okay, so let's go into chapter 12. What I'll be doing here in this chapter, I'll be calling on different devotees to read. I've got the participants list here. So get ready. I'll call your name. We can each read one of these here. So chapter 12, this is going to describe the final 11 items of sadhana bhakti, or the 64 items that have been mentioned by Srila Rupa Goswami, and this further aspects of transcendental service. It's going to go over the final 11. Now, some of these will be repeated, and we'll explain the details of that as well later. Okay. So the first 5 are the most important ones, which will be a chapter dedicated to these, which is chapter 13. All right, just so we really get the message.
I can't get on the internet. It's a live.
I can.
Sit in the corner.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay, so let's Karunika and Mehul, you could read this slide for us. Let's see how this works. It's always a test. See if devotees are there in front of the screen, or they're otherwise distracted. All right, that didn't work so well. Perhaps I pronounced the name wrong. Karunika, are you there? Next one is Kesh, which must be Keshavam. Are you with us, Keshavam? Oh no. Second. Keshav. Everyone can hear me? Someone could yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Rupa. You got your thumb up.
Yes,
Okay,
Prabhu, we can hear you.
Yes, Prabhu, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay, let's try third time lucky. This is Saroj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, you can read this slide for us.
Okay, it is also said to Narada Muni, my dear Narada, a person who writes Vaishnava literature and keeps such literature at home has Lord Narayan always residing in his house.
Yeah, okay, I'm sure many of you have some scriptures in your home, Srimad Bhagavatam. We just did a big push or effort to distribute many Srimad Bhagavatam texts in the Bhadra campaign. So, very important, very powerful. Prabhupada refers to books such as the Ramayana, also the Mahabharata, Puranas, the Upanishad. Yeah. So sometimes there's some, some superstitions for some Hindu people that, for instance, if you have the Mahabharata in your house, then everything will be lost. I don't know, some of you might have heard such things like that. But here it is not. Wherever there's Vaishnava literature that's kept at home, then the Lord is there. Yeah. And there's another quote here from the Skanda Purana. I'll just read that myself. A person who is constantly engaged in reading literature, enunciating the cultivation of Vaishnava devotional service, is always glorious in human society. And certainly Lord Krishna becomes pleased with him. A person who very carefully keeps such literature at home and offers respectful obeisances to it becomes freed from all sinful reactions and ultimately becomes worshipful by all the demigods. Okay, so previously books were not so readily available. People had to handwrite books, and they was treated with great awe and respect. So today is a bit different. We have many books. Probably some of you may have many books, and we have so many that sometimes we may not be so careful about how we keep them and where we keep them. So we should, please, let's just keep this in mind. If we have any books, any devotional scriptures, granthas, we should be very careful. You can offer arti to them as well. Okay, so anyway, the title is Hearing Revealed Scriptures. Yeah, this is the principle of devotional service. There's something in chat there. Okay, yeah, some of you might not be able to read. Yeah, that's fine. Janaki has sent a message. She's in a public place with a lot of noise, so won't be able to read. Okay, not a problem. Okay, let's. If there's any questions, of course, we have an open forum for questions. You can just unmute and ask, or you can put them in the chat. So again, this is further aspects of transcendental service. So if we're devotees, we have to hear the revealed scripture. This is what Rupa Goswami is saying. Yeah, that's what it means to be a devotee. And if you have these scriptures in your house, it's as good as having the Lord in your house. Okay. So this is one that is repeated a few times. I'll just read this because it's very short. Any person who becomes attracted to places other than the Torah will certainly be captured by the illusory energy. Okay, so this is mentioned 4 or 5 times as Rupa Goswami gives the 64 angas of devotion. He mentions this more than once. Yeah. I just read from here. Prabhupada says, he quotes from the Brahmanda Purana. It is said that all the results of traveling on all the pilgrimages within the 3 worlds can be achieved simply by touching the holy land of Mathura. In many Shastra scriptures, it is said simply by hearing, remembering, glorifying, desiring, seeing, or touching a land on Mathura, one can achieve all desires. Yeah? So that's the same with all the holy places. Obviously, and within the district of Mathura, we have Vrindavan. Then we have the holy land of Navadvip, and also Jagannath Puri. And there's many other sacred theatres in India. Yeah. So, as we mentioned more than once, because this comes up more than once, we might not have the opportunity to live in the Holy Dham, but we should make, as Prabhupada mentions in the Nectar of Instruction, we should make our home like a Holy Dham. Yeah. We should be in a place where the Lord is worshipped. Okay. So that's residing in Mathura. Okay. Ananda Leela, if you're with us, you can read this one here. Hare Krishna. Okay, it's not there. It's a bit of a gamble, this. You don't know if you're up there. So listening to Ananda Vrindavan. Anyone there? I'll have to ask someone I can see. Rupanuga Bhakti Das.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, perhaps that might work better. But let's just ask those who I can see. You can read this.
Yes, Prabhu. My dear Parvati, there are different methods of worship, and out of all such methods, the worship of the Supreme Person is considered to be the highest. But even higher than the worship of the Lord is the worship of the Lord's devotees.
Yeah. Okay. Often you will see prayers given by great devotees is that they will pray to be servants of the Lord's devotees. Yeah. Because the Lord's devotees are very dear to the Lord. So if you picture how much effort or how much attention goes, for instance, for worshipping the deity in the temple, yeah, great lot of focus, great load of lots of attention goes towards worshipping the Lord, which it should. But actually, what the Lord is saying here, that better than that actually is if you worship and serve the Lord's devotees. Yeah, so it's something to consider, and we should make we may read this or we may read it, but we shouldn't just read it. We have to think of how we can put it into, how can we make it a part of our devotional service. Of course, a lot of us are rendering service to our Pacific spiritual masters, to devotees who are in charge of different aspects of service within the temple or within the congregation. But our mood should be always, when we get an opportunity, to want to serve the devotees. Now, I can give you a little trick here, because devotees don't really want to be served. This is the nature of a devotee. They're very humble. So if you ask a devotee, oh, how can I serve you? The devotee will reply back, no, how can I serve you? Yeah. So there's one time when devotees will happily and eagerly get you to serve them. Yeah. That's if you serve them prashadam. Okay. If you serve prashad, they will call you again and again. I'll say, please, I want this, I want that. They'll be very happy that you're serving. So keep that in mind, and you won't refuse your service that you're offering. If you're coming around with a cheesecake, they'll be very happy. They come around with prashad. Yeah. So it's nice to do that. Nice to serve the devotees, serve them prashadam. Yeah, and it's nice when you see devotees have a friendly competition to actually serve each other. And sometimes here in the temple, we take prashad, and sometimes there's a fight for devotees to grab their empty plates and to go and wash it. So everyone's fighting over trying to get each other's plates so they can serve the devotee by cleaning their plate. And this gives great happiness to the Lord, more so than if you're putting a flower garland on him or you're decorating him with a peacock feather. He's more happy that you're trying to grab the plate from the devotee to wash it, or you fold the devotee's washing. In a different way, there's many ways you can serve devotees. Someone had their hand up there. Santosh, or Mother Santosh. Hare Krishna. Yes, please.
So it said that worship of the Lord is, it's worshipping the devotees is higher than worshipping the Lord.
Yeah.
So for example, Shiva is considered to be the highest Vaishnava devotee of the Lord.
Yeah.
Should we not worship Shiva instead, worshipping the Lord?
Not instead of.
Okay.
We always worship the Lord, just like we worship our spiritual masters. And our spiritual master will direct us to worshiping the Lord. That's his instruction. So ultimately, we can worship Lord Shiva, but Lord Shiva will be he's more happy actually when he sees you worshiping the Lord of his heart.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's an interesting question. So Lord Shiva is very happy if we're worshiping his Lord, the Lord of his heart. So yeah, we should offer respects and we can worship Lord Shiva in that mood that he's the greatest Vaishnava. But ultimately, his instructions, it's there in the Bhagavatam. I can't recall exactly where, but I remember in the Bhagavatam where Lord Shiva actually is very keen, is much more pleased, is when the Lord is being worshipped. Yeah, but good point.
Okay, thank you.
Right? Yeah, Hare Krishna. Okay, so rendering service to devotees. This is also an important part of our devotional practice. Living in a holy place, hearing a real scripture, living in a holy dharma, serving devotees. And let me see what quotes here. Let me read one quote here. Prabhupada includes, again from the Skanda Purana. Persons whose bodies are marked with tilak, symbolizing the conch shell, wheel, club, and lotus, and who keep the leaves of tulsi on their heads. Interesting, tulsi leaves on their heads, and whose bodies are always decorated with gopi chand. Even seen once can help the seer be relieved from all sinful activities. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're going about your day, going to the supermarket, going to the dentist. Why not put on gopi chand, put on some tilak? You'll be doing a great service, you know. Let's see, we won't have time to read everything there, but I can't resist. But let's read this quote as well from the Adi Purana. My dear Partha, one who claims to be my devotee is not so. Only a person who claims to be the devotee of my devotee is actually my devotee. Okay, then Prabhupada says, no one can approach the Supreme Lord directly. One must approach him through his pure devotees. Therefore, in the system of Vaishnava activities, the first duty is to accept a devotee as spiritual master and then render service to him. Yeah? So we worship the Lord through the transparent via medium
I used to iron there.
of
It
the
is not there.
devotee.
It was working.
Okay, it is. All right. Any questions on that? So rendering service to devotees. Okay, let's go to the next one.
I said my point of view.
Just have to mute there. You have to be quick when you're doing. You have to spot which microphone's off. Okay, so you just ask. Rich Wu, are you with us? You can read this one.
Yes, Prabhu.
All right, thank you.
Serving the Lord according to one's position. In the Padma Puran, there is a statement that one should perform the ceremonies of the Lord.
I am not going to spend money just.
There is a statement, yeah, in the Padma Puran, there is a statement that one should perform the ceremonies for the Lord according to one's financial position. Everyone should observe the different ceremonies and celebration of the Lord by all means.
Okay. So if you're a multi-millionaire, you should give more than £2.50 in a donation box. Yeah, according to your means. Yeah, that means, you know, it doesn't. You should be intelligent about that. You have to maintain your house. You have to maintain your family. Obviously, you have to make sure that's all going on. But here, serving the Lord according to one's position. Yeah. Mentioned here specifically according to one's financial position. So it doesn't mean just giving Lakshmi. It means having festivals or ceremonies at home to glorify the Lord. You know, at your home you may have you may celebrate your Mastami, and to the degree that you do that depends on your financial position. Yeah, so serving the Lord according to one's position. So according to your means. Yeah. Okay, so Dinanath Prabhu, are you with us there? You can read this one.
Yes, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Performing devotional service in Kartik. The Lord may offer liberation or material happiness to a devotee, but after some devotional service has been executed, particularly in Mathura during the month of Kartik, the devotees want only to attain pure devotional service unto the Lord. Padma Purana.
Okay, so this is, Prabhupada mentions this is Udra Vrata, yeah, this observance during the month of Kartik, which is happening next
Wednesday.
Next week, yeah. Which day?
Wednesday.
Wednesday,
the 20th.
Yeah, 20th. So we have Sharat Purnima on the 20th. So here in the temple here in London, we'll be offering candles in the evening, and then the next morning, then it continues for a month. Yeah. So Prabhupada specifically introduced this to our ISKCON society, where we worship Lord Damodar. Otherwise, our worshipful deities are Yugala Kishore, youthful Radha Krishna. But interesting, Prabhupada gave us this worship, and it's very beautiful, it's very nice, and it's very significant. It helps to teach us that the Lord ultimately is pleased by the prayers of his devotees rather than, or his devotees free from any sense of awe and reverence, as we know in the mood of Navya Soda, where she controls Krishna through her love. Okay, so it's mentioned also that very important, we can one's devotional activities at this time of the year is enhanced. Forget how many, perhaps 1,000, any activities that we do in the month of Kartik. So Rupa Goswami has included it here. That might be why Srila Prabhupada made that an aspect of our sadhana for the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, because it's specifically mentioned here by Rupa Goswami. So performing devotional service in Kartik. Yeah. So some devotees take different vows. Some of them take vows to chant more. Some devotees may restrict their eating. Some devotees may render more service in the temple. Some devotees specifically go to the holy dhams. Yeah. A lot of devotees make use of this month in order to increase their devotional activities. Yeah. Let me just read here. Prabhupada explains. Oh, this is interesting here. Prabhupada says the purport is that the Lord does not award devotional service to ordinary persons who are not serious about it. But even such unserious persons who execute devotional service according to the regulative principles during the month of Kartik and within the jurisdiction of Mathura in India are very easily awarded the Lord's personal service. And he goes on to say, one of the most important of these ceremonial functions is called Udra Vrata. Udra Vrata is observed in the month of Kartik, October, November. Especially in Vrindavan, there is a specific program for temple worship of the Lord in his Damodar form. Damodar refers to Krishna being bound with rope by his mother Yasoda. It is said that just as Lord Damodar is very dear to his devotees, so the month known as Damodar or Kartik is also very dear to them. Okay. So that will be beginning next week. So we should take advantage of that to whatever degree we can. So we've heard hearing revealed scripture. These things, it's good to look at these 64 items and see how many or how we are incorporating them into our life, into our devotional life. It's a good way to assess our devotional practice. So for example, if we're feeling a little bit of a lull, or feeling a little bit dip in our devotional or in our devotion to the Lord, or we're feeling the pinches of the material world, or we're feeling perhaps tempted or attracted to the material things, then we should, it's good, we can go over these. Okay, here's one. Here we reveal scripture. How much hearing am I doing? How much hearing am I doing? Am I doing it as recommended? Nasta Prayeshu, Vaprayeshu, Nityam Bhagavata Sevya. Is it a part of my daily routine? Residing in Mathura. Okay, India's just allowed tourist visas again, by the way. So the gates are open. Anyone wants to book a flight, you can now. You can book a ticket, but you have to finish your back to Sashti first, okay? Before you fly away. Yeah, are we rendering service to devotees? You know, is there anything we're doing specifically that we can put under this title? Yeah. Are we serving the Lord according to one's position? Yeah. Can we give, or can we do a little bit more? You know, according to one's position. Am I being a bit miserly? Yeah, we can see. And performing devotional service in Kartik. This is coming up. Okay. Janaki Mataji, you can read. If she's there. Okay. We go down to Krishna Gopal. Are you still with us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. We can hear you.
So yeah, okay. Observing festivals, celebrating the Lord's activities. My Lord Janardana, Krishna, please let us know the date when your mother, Devaki Devi, gave birth to you. If you kindly inform us about this, then we shall observe a great celebration on this date. O Killer Akeshi, we are souls 100% surrendered unto your lotus feet, and we wish only to please you with your ceremonies.
Yeah, this was before the first Janmashtami was ever celebrated. They're asking Krishna, please tell us, yeah, how we can celebrate this day of your Janma. Yeah. So as we know, this is perhaps one of the biggest festivals. We have Gaura Panim and Janmashtami. It's very significant. So actually, if we look at all these items, once you become a devotee, we're quite busy, isn't it? Quite a busy life. There's many things to do in regards to practicing sadhana bhakti. So here's one, observing festivals like Janmashtami. So, you know, we should go out of our way, even though it may not always be spontaneously, but we should make efforts to get involved in festivals. Yeah, either visiting a temple or even at one's home. I think we quoted before where Srila Prabhupada himself, he was on a Jaladuta, or when he was coming over to America, while on the Jaladuta, it was Janmashtami. So Prabhupada celebrated it. By cooking prashadam, then he invited the crew members, and he was speaking about Krishna, and he distributed prashadam. So it's very simple, but he followed that. It was Janmashtami. He obviously had a diary with him, as you know, and it was Janmashtami. So this is what it means to be a devotee, especially significant is when the day when Krishna appeared here on this mustard seed of a planet, amongst billions of mustard seeds, Krishna appeared here. So the day he appeared is called Janmashtami, Krishna's birthday. Yeah, and that's not the only name here. Is Janmashtami is mentioned, but there's many festivals. I mentioned Gaurapani as well. Another festival, Hadastami, the appearance of Lord Nrsingadev. There's many, yeah. So we should be involved in these festivals. We should take time out. We should make some effort to get involved. Guaranteed you'll feel blissful. Guaranteed. You may feel tired. You'll feel blissfully tired. Wonderful day is Janmashtami. So Sophie Mataji, you can read this one. You need to unmute. No?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, great. Thank you, Mother.
Serving the deity with great devotion. It is said in the Adi Purana, a person who is constantly engaged in chanting the holy name and who feels transcendental pleasure being engaged in devotional service is certainly awarded the facilities of devotional service and is never given just mukti, liberation.
Okay. So mukti generally means, as Prabhupada mentions there in Nectar of Devotion, it means liberation from material contamination. One is somewhat free from being influenced by the modes of material nature. But that's just a byproduct for someone who's actually worshipping Krishna. It comes as a consequence of worshipping Krishna. Generally, you'll find that the personalists, that's their goal, is to moksha. What is my moksha? I want moksha. They have this understanding, the misunderstanding that moksha means the end of all, or the end of our existence, to merge. But there's a verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam that describes actually the real moksha is to be reinstated in our constitutional position as servants of the Lord. That's normal condition. So serving the deity with great devotion. Interesting, we may not identify the connection between the title of this slide and what's written, because it describes a person who's constantly engaged in chanting the holy name and who feels transcendental pleasure. It's certainly all the facilities of devotional service and never given just mukti. But here specifically that service it's indicating that service is directed towards the Supreme Lord as he appears in his archer multi form, and we're chanting his holy name. Okay, so serving the deity of great devotion. Many of you have altars at home. You may have picture altars, or you may have deities, Vanitai, Radha Krishna. So this is something else to do. Being a devotee, we should describe that all devotees in the Srimad Bhagavatam take shelter of a particular form of the Lord. All of our acharyas had their worshipable deities. Rupa Goswami, for example, very much is Radha Govinda. So all bona fide devotees, Prabhupada explains, take shelter of a particular form of the Lord. There's a question from Nayan Prabhu, who's sitting behind me in the room here with me. He says, Prabhuji, how do these devotional vratas relate to where it says one should not make a vow in the name of God? We should make vows that you can keep, especially if you're doing it in front of the Supreme Lord. That's what that means. You should so you should be careful before you make a vow that you can follow it. You should have the determination. If you come before the Lord and you've made that vow, you should do it. So be careful what vows you make. Okay, did that answer it? Okay. Another thing about vows as well, going back to the month of Kartik as it's coming up, it's good to keep your vows secret. It carries a certain potency, a certain weight. if you keep them secret. But afterwards, you may say, someone asks you, okay, yeah, I did this for the month. Yeah, you shouldn't advertise, oh, I made this vow, I made that vow. You're fine, it's a subtle thing. But if you just keep it to yourself, you'll find you have more resolve in following the vow. Yeah, also it could be a sense of false pride. You know, I made this vow, I made that vow. Yeah. So anyway, be careful what vows you make. Yeah. Okay. Let's go to
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, please.
I have a question on the previous slide. In that slide, it says that, O killer of Kesi, we are souls 100% surrendered unto your lotus feet, and we wish only to please you with our ceremonies. So kind of implies that, because one is fully surrendered, they only want to please Krishna and just think about Krishna, nothing else. My question here is, how do we know that, we are fully surrendered to Krishna's lotus feet? We expect recognition, we expect credit. I've done this, this and that. But how do we know that we are fully surrendered to Krishna's lotus feet?
Yeah, I get the question. In other words, this prayer is coming from a place where, O King of Keshi, we are souls 100% surrendered to your lotus feet, and we wish only to please you with that sermon. So that may be a particular devotional mood or sentiment that a devotee has. Their life is dedicated to Krishna. Like, for example, in the Isha Upanishad, towards the end, there's prayer where devotees saying, please, my Lord, remember my devotional activities. Please, please remember all the devotional activities that that I have done. So devotees, they have in that sense, they have an honest expression that they've given their lives to the Lord. And sometimes you will see prayers from Norton Dastakor, as I mentioned earlier, they will sometimes, it's spoken of in a mood of lamentation. My Lord, I've given you my whole life. My whole life is surrendered unto you. Now, we also understand that it doesn't mean the devotees are thinking that everything is complete and that's it. No, we can always surrender more. The process of surrender is a continuing, ever expanding dynamic. So I think here it's just they're just honestly expressing themselves before the Lord, praying for his mercy. We are your devotees, and we wish only to please you with our ceremonies. We do not have any other interest in our life. So that doesn't that won't negate their mood of humility. This is not a statement of pride here. It's a statement of a bit like, it's a statement of begging the Lord for his mercy and reflecting on their life as being surrendered to him. But this will not negate the principle of humility. So it's the mood of this prayer. Did that help to understand it more?
Yes, thank you. Yes, for me.
Yeah, devotees themselves will generally not say, yes, I'm 100% surrendered. That's not their kind of disposition. But when it comes to begging the mercy of the Lord, my dear Lord, I've rendered you so much service. There's nothing else in my life. Please bless us. Please, we only wish to please you. All right? So it's more of a, you could say, a sense of mood of bhava here in their addressing the Lord. But well spotted. Very, very well spotted. Okay, thank you for that. So, servant. Okay, let's go. He's with us now. Shob from the news. Dina Nafaru, you there? You can read this one.
Yes, Prabhuji.
If you're there. Yeah,
The citation of Srimad Bhagavatam among devotees. O expert and thoughtful men, relish Bhagavatam, the major fruit of the desire tree of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukdev Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.3.
Yeah, Nigama Kalpitaro Galitam Padam Sukamukatam Tutavidam Vada Bhagavatam Samaram Sika Bhuvi Bhuvakaha. Third verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And Nasta Preshu Patreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. We have Srimad Bhagavatam every day in the temples. And before it's been mentioned about the recitation of the Vedic scriptures and the importance of having these scriptures in one's home, like the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, for example. It was mentioned before. But here, Rupa Goswami specifically speaking about the Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah. And here he's quoting a verse that explains why. The Vedic scriptures themselves are vast, like an ocean. Yeah. Now, we've been given the essence, as we know, this verse, Nigama Kalpa Taro Garitam. Yeah. It is the essence of all the Vedic scriptures. Yeah. In other words, it describes it's the fruit. It is of the desire tree of Vedic literatures. Yeah. And Prabhupada mentions here there are different. He mentions that there's many different branches of Vedas. Yeah, if you read the Vedas, you can find out about politics. You can find out military art if you're thinking of going to war. Yeah, medicine. Yeah, also there's sociology described. Yeah. So many different aspects of knowledge, both mundane, so-called mundane, and transcendental. Now, for someone to study the Vedas and come to the understanding of Krishna's true Bhagavan Swayam is highly unlikely. Highly unlikely. If one doesn't have access to Bhagavatam and tries and studies the Vedas, there's a good chance one is going to be confused about where to focus their worship, who is the supreme, etc. What is the goal? There's so many, there's so many different schools of interpretation on the Vedas. That's why Bhagavatam is considered to be very dear to the Vaishnava, to the Vaishnavas, because it gives the essence that's described here, the mature fruit of the desire tree of the Vedic literatures. Yeah. So Prabhupada mentions that he mentions that tree, for example, it's honored actually according to the fruit that comes from it. He gives an example of like a mango tree. Yeah, it's very valuable because it produces mangoes. Whenever we go to India, we see most of the mango orchards have got guards there guarding the mangoes. Of course, the monkeys don't care much. Try and dive in, but yeah, it's a big business. Is mangoes and So, but here, given this example here, because he gives like when a mango fruit is ripened, it's the greatest gift of the tree. So the ripening of the Vedas, when it becomes ripe, when it ripens, that is the Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah. So it's the sweetest, so that a mango tree takes many years to grow actually. And then it finally grows, I think 12, I think to 14 years before it produces mangoes. Yeah. So the essence of all that time, the essence of that tree is the mango. So the vast ocean of the Vedas, then the essence of it, the most sweetest part of it, is what Srila Vyasadeva gave after his trance of prema under instructions from Narada Muni. And what came from his heart, the sky of his heart, is the Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah, Dharma Pratipta Kadeva Paramo, which from the very beginning, it describes in the verse before this is text 3, in the verse before this, it describes in the very beginning that it completely rejects any religious activity which has any material motive. So that is directly what we're studying here. You know, the seed verse of the Nectar of Devotion. Yeah, Anyadalas Samyam, Gana Kamadi Anavritam, Anukulena Krishnanu, Silanam Bhakti Uttama. Yeah. So Bhagavatam is given us the fruit of the Vedas, which is spontaneous, loving devotional service to the lotus feet of the Lord. Now, you could say this verse is explaining, that's enough in of itself. But what's being explained here, what to speak when that Bhagavatam, which is the sweetest of the sweet, it's coming from Sukadeva Goswami. Somehow that which is sweet, it's become even more sweet. Yeah. We can give an example. I think devotees are one of my favorite reciters of the Ramayana is Radhanath Swami Maharaj. Yeah, such wonderful recitation. In other words, we've all heard the Ramayana and we've all heard the stories, but when a great devotee actually speaks those stories, coming through his heart and his devotion, it becomes like something extra wonderful. Yeah, like at the moment, I'm also hearing regularly. I'm hearing Indrajuma Swami Maharaj, who is speaking about Raj Leela pastimes. Wonderful, and I mean, I've heard some of these pastimes before, but hearing from him, it's become even more sweeter. Yeah? So that's why he's saying it, emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, it's become even more tasteful, although it's already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Yeah. So this including liberated souls, this means it's relishable for those who have no attraction to matter. Yeah. They are free, as we mentioned before, that they are in the state of being equipoised and free of influence of the modes of material nature, but still they're attracted to the narrations of Krishna. Yeah. And then Prabhupada speaks about how it's received, this fruit of how it should be received. And he mentions about the principle of the cyclic succession. You'll see there. So in other words, it kind of remains unbroken. So you can picture, for instance, like the mango, if you drop it from the top to the bottom, from the top of the tree to the bottom, then it's a good chance it's going to break. So if it's handed down carefully, then it won't break. So this is the principle of the cyclic succession, which Srila Prabhupada points out there. It must come down through cyclic succession. And as we're describing in also Guru Pat Ashraya, it should come through authorized mango handlers, or authorized devotees, yeah, who know real purpose of Shastra. Now that's Prabhupada's mentioning that because there's many persons who give recitation of the Srimad Bhagavatam Saptaha, yeah, and they're not devotees of the Lord, yeah. I think I mentioned before, they may have, if someone is going to open a factory or there's some special event, then it's considered auspicious to have someone come and read Srimad Bhagavatam. So there's persons who are paid to do that. Yeah, but they're not sadhakas. They don't chant Hare Krishna. Some of them don't even believe in Krishna, but they have a job of reciting Bhagavatam. So, so no one will become a devotee from listening to that recital. Now I'm just going to read from here. So the devotee is sometimes called Bhagavatam, and the book which is in relationship with devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is also called Bhagavatam. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommended that in order to relish the real taste of Srimad Bhagavatam, one should take instructions from the person Bhagavatam. And continue, Srimad Bhagavatam is relishable even by liberated persons. Sukadeva Goswami admitted that although he was liberated from within the very womb of his mother, it was only after relishing Srimad Bhagavatam that he became a great devotee. Thus, one who is desirous of advancing in Krishna consciousness should relish the purport of Srimad Bhagavatam through discussions of authorized devotees. Okay? So that's something else to fill up your day with. You have to also hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay? Add it to your list. Yeah. And it's quite easily done. So they can go online. It's spoiled for choice. So many classes, but it should be included. Rupa Goswami's mentioned it here as an anga of our devotion to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah, any questions about that or any realizations to share, any comments?
Hi, Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, Krishna Gopal. Yeah.
I just wanted to mention, I really like the analogy of the mango and the mango hammer.
Yeah, Srila Prabhupada gives it here.
It's really nice. It just makes me appreciate more of this bhakti that that Srila Prabhupada has given us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. It's extraordinary actually that we have access to the Bhagavatam by the grace of Srila Prabhupada. And I could say so much in that. Prabhupada gave his life to translating Bhagavatam, isn't it? It's only after translating the first 3 cantos then Prabhupada came. Yeah. So interesting how the Bhagavatam came along with the devotees to explain it. Yeah? Otherwise, there wouldn't be any access to it. You know, someone could have sent the Srimad Bhagavatam and you probably count on your hands those who would read it and understand it and then become devotees. But devotees, Prabhupada is the person Bhagavat, and he came to show us, you know, to teach us Bhagavatam. Yeah, so let's be thankful to Prabhupada for that, you know. So please keep that in mind. You've got books you're reading, I'm sure. But one of those books should be Srimad Bhagavatam, Nectar of Devotion, Bhagavad Gita, especially Srimad Bhagavatam. Plenty to keep us busy, isn't it? As devotees, we got no. This is the idea that we've got no time for Maya. Sorry, no time. Do you want to come to see the film tonight? No time. I have to read Bhagavatam. You know, do you want to come to the fun fair? No time. I have to read Bhagavad Gita. You know, do you want to come to the restaurant? No time. I've got to chant my rounds. You know, I've got to worship my deity. You know, like that. Busy for Krishna. Do you want to do this, or do you want to come to this big family wedding? No time. I have to wash the pots at the temple. Yeah, busy. Yeah. Okay. This chapter's taking a bit longer than I thought, but I have to speed up a bit. Okay, let's have someone let me go down the list who has read. Keshava, are you with us this time?
Yes, Prabhu.
Right. Please, you can read.
Associating with advanced devotees. The value of a moment's association with the devotee of the Lord cannot be compared to the attainment of heavenly planets or liberation from matter. And what to speak of worldly benedictions in the form of material prosperity, which are for those who are meant for death.
Yeah, for death. Yeah, this is Bhagavatam verse again. To alimana levenati na swaga napunavavam bhagavat sangi sangasya nitya kim utasitaha. Yeah, so often Prabhupada disciples will relate of their coming in contact with Prabhupada, even if it was a short time, it would completely change their direction in life. Yeah, so to aliyamana lavana pi, even a moment. Yeah. So better than going, anyway, if you read descriptions of the heavenly planets, it's there in the Bhagavatam. It's quite an attainment for a materialistic person. But actually better than that is one moment of association with a devotee. Yeah, because that can set you on the path to obtaining Krishna. Yeah. All right, so let's chanting the holy name of the Lord is next. Neya, Neya Mataji or Neya, N-E-Y-A, are you there? Okay, so Yashwani, Mother?
Hare
I might
Krishna.
call on somebody to read again. Yeah, go ahead.
Hare Krishna. Chanting the holy name of the Lord. My dear King, if one is spontaneously attached to the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, it is to be understood that he has attained the highest perfectional stage.
Okay, so something else to add to our to-do list? Chant the holy name. Yeah, and there's quite a few notes here. I'll probably have to be a bit brief here, as Prabhupada does elaborate on this to quite a degree. This mentions here, let's read, it is specifically mentioned that the karmis, this follows on from this verse here, okay? You see this, it follows on. It is specifically mentioned that the karmis are aspiring after fruitive results of their activities, the salvationists who are aspiring to become one with the Supreme Person, and the yogis who are aspiring after mystic perfections can achieve the results of all perfectional stages simply by chanting the Maha Mantra. Sukadev uses the words nirtam, which means it has already been decided. Yeah. He was a liberated soul and therefore could not accept anything which was not conclusive. So Sukadev Goswami especially stresses that it has already been concluded that one who has come to the stage of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra with determination and steadiness must be considered to have already passed the trials of fruitive activities, mental speculation, and mystic yoga. And a quote from the Adi Purana by Krishna: anyone who is engaged in chanting my transcendental name must be considered to be always associating with me, and I may tell you frankly that for such a devotee, I become easily purchased. Yeah. So this is perhaps one of the most important, or if not the most important angle of our devotional practice. When we take initiation, some of you are initiated, perhaps some of you are not. We take vows to chant every day of our life the holy name of the Lord. Yeah, minimum of 2 hours. Yeah. Any questions about chanting?
Can I ask a
Please,
general question, please, Prabhu?
Yes, please.
some people have more taste for chanting the holy names, doing the Maha Mantra on the japas. Some people have more taste in reading Bhagavatam. Which is better, and or should we be doing both?
Well, we should be doing both. I think the next chapter will describe the different angas of bhakti, and it's natural that one devotee may be attracted to one aspect, one of the 9 angas of devotion. Yeah, but which are meaning swavanam, kirtanam, smaranam, padasevanam, archanam, vandanam, dasyam, sakyam, atmani vedanam. Yeah, these different items of pure devotional practice. But accompanying all these different items of devotional practice is the Maha Mantra, is chanting, because it is the Yuga Dharma. Yeah. So it may be that sometimes we may not, what we could say, get much, quote unquote, a taste from our chanting for one reason or another, and we may find shelter in reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah, but we should always, because of the profound, or because of the significance of the Maha Mantra, we should never ever neglect our prescribed duty of chanting the Maha Mantra. Yeah, because that's our only means, actually, of, in essence, that's our means of perfection. It is actually Krishna. So we have to, that's why we take vows to chant for 2 hours a day. Yeah, and if we carefully chant, then everything will become sweet. Yeah, everything we do will become imbued with devotion from that one anga of chanting the Lord's holy name. Yeah. So I don't know if I answered the question. Yeah. Did it answer your question specifically?
Yes, thank you. Further to that, that's my experience, personal experience. The more I chant more attentively, the more I understand what I read from scriptures. So I'm sort of trying to figure out. But some people say, "Oh, I can't chant. I don't have the attention span for chanting, sitting down and chanting." But I find reading much more productive and enjoyable.
But we have to take it on. We shouldn't, that's kind of, how can we say, no doubt the mind is fickle, and it goes here and it goes there. But the point is, we have to, by daily chanting, we have to learn to bring the mind under control. Yeah, we have to learn to hear the Maha Mantra, and there's different levels and there's different levels of chanting. But so in other words, the argument could say it sounds like one is giving up from the very start. One doesn't want to bother oneself with having to try to bring the mind under control to actually hear the holy name. Yeah. So it may be questionable of how long, with that type of mentality, one will be reading. Yeah, that might become distasteful at some point. Yeah. So this has been given to us as the medicine for this age, is chanting the holy name. So we shouldn't be lazy in chanting the holy name. Yes, the mind goes here, the mind goes there. Okay, so go to war with it. Sit down and chant loud so you can hear the holy name. That's a better mentality, rather than, I can't be bothered, let me pick up and read a book. No, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us the medicine. So, and we're fine. If we give time to it, then we're fine. We will actually, the Lord will see us make an effort, and he will, and the sweetness of Krishna will become manifest through the holy name. So in essence of the question, it's not a question of it's not a question for a devotee as something to accept or to not accept. There is no questioning that. We have to accept the chanting of the holy name, and we will go through different stages in chanting. But if we don't, but we will go through different stages, but we won't go through different stages. In other words, we will not get anywhere if we can't be bothered. You know, you get the idea. So I'm kind of exaggerating a little bit to get the importance of it across.
Yes. No, thank you. It's very clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to add to that, sorry, don't mean to cut you off, but my internet keeps coming in and out, so I don't know. My camera's not working either. So
we can hear you clearly now.
Okay. I went on to Mahatma Prabhu's Japa workshop not that long ago.
Oh, wonderful! Yeah.
And Mahatma Prabhu was saying that when your mind is not, staying still for you to chant, maybe we should just kind of use some techniques. So he suggested saying that, just accept me, just keep saying that to your mind. And it actually does work, funnily enough.
Yeah.
So that's a really good
tool. Thank you for that. Yeah. So that's one tool that Mahatma gives. And I perhaps recommend everyone should at some point, it's good to attend one of these japa seminars, it gives many little insights. For instance, what the mother just explained there. This is given and by devotees who've been chanting for like most of their life. And there's many, I don't know, tricks is the right word, but there's many different, what's the better word? Many different ways and means that you can adopt in the chanting. Yes, so thank you for sharing that. Hare Krishna. All right, so let's look what we got again. Living in Mathura. Come up again. Perhaps I can just read this one. Who is that person who will not agree to worship the land of Mathura? Mathura can deliver all the desires and ambitions of the fruitive workers and the salvationists who desire to become one with the Supreme Brahman. Certainly Mathura will deliver the desires of the devotees who simply aspire to engage in devotional service of the Lord. Okay. So just before we get to 2 o'clock, I'm just gonna, excuse me, I'm just gonna get up another set of slides here so we can give us quite a good, clear understanding of what's repeated here. One second. Okay, so there's some apparent repetitions. So let's just go over this quickly. As we just seen, this living in Mathura, going to the or residing in Mathura is Angas 7, 48, 55, and 64. So it's repeated 4 times. So from that we can obviously understand it's very important. And that's why Prabhupada himself established temples in India or in the Holy Dham, so we can visit them. And some people are able to live there. But actually, number 7, which is residing in a sacred place of pilgrimage, like Dwarka, actually, that's referring to visiting specific holy places, which includes Dwarka, Jagannath Puri. Number 48, going to the temple of Vishnu or places of pilgrimage. This refers to briefly visiting any holy place or temple of Vishnu. Okay, so any holy place or temple like Bhaktivedanta or here, or many temples throughout the world. One should live in a sacred place like Mathura, Vrindavan, or Dwarka. Refers exclusively to Mathura, Vrindavan. So Rupa Goswami explains that here, and he gives more detail, which I think was mentioned last week. He gives more detail on the nectar of instruction, and ultimately he will refine it down to living in Radhakund. Yeah, he describes that in his nectar of instruction. Okay, and 64, one should live in the jurisdiction of the Torah, same as under 55. Okay, so it's repeated. Okay, and here we have worshipping the banyan tree. This refers to respectful disposition we should have towards these entities. Tulsi tree. This refers to the physical service we should perform for Tulsi, like we water Tulsi. Nice picture there. And repeated also is, that's for obvious reasons because of the importance, under 32 and 33. One must sing. So refers to singing songs written in glorification of the Lord, and Sankirtan. So this refers to congregation chanting of the Lord's names, pastimes, and qualities. Under 34, 63, one must chant. This refers to quiet recitation of mantras, so we could say japa. And 63, chanting Maha Mantra. So this refers exclusively to the paramount importance of the congregational chanting of the Lord's holy name. So congregational chanting. Like Rupert was telling me he was on Harinam all day yesterday, more or less. Then at night he went on Harinam again, Leicester Square. So paramount importance of congregational chanting, where we get together with other Vaishnavas and we chant the holy name. That also should be part of our devotional practice. So you have to put that into your schedule as well. Okay? Something else. I must get together with the Vaishnavas and chant the holy name. I must go on a Harinam. It's Kartik. Let me go on a Harinam once a week with Rupanuga Bhaktidar. Yeah. Let me see if I can get on a Harinam. And angles 43 and 54. Hearing, and the hearing revealed scripture. Sort of 43 refers to hearing about Krishna's Naam, Rup, Guna, and Leela. Like I'm doing that at the moment. I'm listening to Indradruma Swami describing Krishna's Guna and Leela. Also, we're giving classes on the latter part of the Nectar of Devotion in the week as well, on Krishna's Leela, Guna. Hearing revealed scriptures, to serving the scriptures by hearing, studying, and worshipping. Okay. And 61, recitation of Bhagavatam among devotees. This refers to relishing Krishna consciousness by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from the lips of realized devotees. Okay? Thank you. Hare Krishna. So let's have a little break there. Time is 2 o'clock. Let's reconvene at 2:15, okay? So see you all then. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, Hare Krishna, Mummy.
You all right?
Yeah.
Still coughing?
Huh?
You still coughing?
Yeah. A lot of teachers have got this double whammy.
Dear.
It's okay. Is anyone else online?
I know, everybody's muted.
Oh, I can't see anybody. It will pass. It will pass. I can't see you.
You want to see me?
Yeah. Let me see.
Hare Krishna.
Haribo. I think the devotee should come quickly, otherwise this will become like a mum and son conversation.
Hey, Shobha Mataji, she can join us.
Ah, the auntie there. Hi, Krishna auntie. Okay, Mummy, I'm going to take my video off. Huh?
Keep warm.
Okay, Hare Krishna. I'm back. Welcome back, everyone. Let me just share my screen. Come on over. I can't see the option for sharing my screen. Yep. Oh, yes, I can. Here it is. 1 second. Okay, we're on chapter 13. Here, 1 second. Okay, you're seeing box moving around. Get it. Okay, everyone's back with us. Thank you for joining us again. Hare Krishna. So we're making very good progress, actually. We should easily cover chapters 13 and 14 in the time that we have left. Then we have, remember that this study of the Nectar of Devotion goes up to just chapter 19. So that's another 5 or so chapters left. So we're doing quite well. We're on target. So after a whole year of study or more, this will complete your Bhakti Sastri studies. So hold on, a few more chapters left. So let's look at them, chapter 13. Now, these 5 points, which we've heard perhaps 3 times now, Rupa Goswami or Prabhupada has put in a specific chapter entitled it The 5 Potent Forms of Devotional Service. Yeah. Now, Prabhupada happened to give us all of these. All of these are incorporated into our devotional practice. Now, the reason why Rupa Goswami is making, specifically pointing these out, well, as we've already described, they have amazing potency. And that potency is, it can arouse bhava, even in a neophyte or in a beginner in devotional practice. Now, bhava means, technically it means a ray of prema. Yeah, it's one ray of prema that touches the heart, and it's a specific stage that comes after anartha, nivriti, ruchi, shakti, and then bhava. Now, bhava one is considered to be liberated. Yeah. So this is quite significant. And that's why Rupa Goswami is making a point of these 5. Because that feeling of bhava, which you could say, or we could say spiritual emotion for Krishna, it can be experienced by coming in contact with these 5. As long, a footnote here, as long as we don't make offenses to Vaishnavas. Yeah. Now it should be noted as well that when we speak of this, it doesn't mean one is then situated at the stage of bhava specifically and doesn't or how can I say, one, it's not as if that one stays at the stage of bhava. Generally, it may not be like that. In other words, these 5 are very powerful, that it gives you an insight into bhava. And you will experience emotion, loving, divine emotion for Krishna. Yeah. But then, because of our residue or because of our conditioned nature, generally it may fade. Okay? So is that clear? When it's speaking about it can arouse bhava, for that bhava to be consistent and to then develop into prema, that may take a bit more time as we engage in bhakti and become free from anarthas and develop and go through the stages of ruchi, shakti, etc. Yeah. So I thought I'd just make that clear before we go into this discussion again on these 5 points, and that's why they're mentioned. Any questions about that or comments? Now, I'm sure each one of you can probably, if I was to ask, you could all probably express or remember an overwhelming moment in your devotional practice where you become, tears come from the eyes, you feel like your heart is melting. You may have experienced it. Perhaps when you were visiting the Holy Dham, you may have had some profound experience, or being in a temple here, or being in Bhagavatam class, or chanting, or serving a devotee. And that may be one of the original, or be the reasons that you've continued to engage in devotional service, because of coming in contact with these 5 and experiencing that love. So let's go over them again. Yeah, Rupa Goswami is going to go over them once more with some further insight. Let me just bring up the participants who is here. We can get devotees reading again. Nayan Prabhu, you could read this here for us.
Worshipping the deity. My dear friend, if you still have any desire to enjoy the company of your friends within this material world, then don't look upon the form of Krishna, who is standing on the bank of the Keshika, a bathing place in Vrindavan. He is known as Govinda, and his eyes are very enchanting. He is playing upon his flute, and on his head there is a peacock feather, and his whole body is illuminated by the moonlight in the sky. Yeah, I wish I put more time. I could have had a nice picture of that. There's a specific picture which comes to mind, which really represents it. Now, this is a type of poetic metaphor that is actually condemning what seems to be praised, and praises what it seems to condemn. Interesting, very nice poetry that Rupa Goswami uses. And so Prabhupada, there in Nectar of Devotion, he encourages, he directly speaks about worshiping the deity, and he says actually it's the duty of householder devotees to have deities at home, and to begin the process of worshiping, along with all the family members.
Prabhupada also gives that direction in the Bhagavad Gita. And he mentions nicely that this will save one from unwanted activities. And what does he explain as unwanted activities? Going to clubs, he mentions cinemas, dancing parties, smoking and drinking, etc. Yeah, Prabhupada in a very kind of nice way, in a kind of, all such nonsense will be forgotten if one stresses the worship of the deities at home. Okay. So traditionally, this was a, say, in a Vedic setting, this was what people in the village would do after a day's work, is that would come and they would sing beautiful bhajans for the deities, yeah, and recite from Ramayana and Bhagavatam. Yeah. That was their life, and that was their entertainment. That was their clubbing. Yeah, that would be their clubbing. Sit down and hear recitation of stories of the Ramayana. So, and they used to be quite common, but still to some degree now, there will be devotees who they would visit from village to village, and they would just recite and sing songs from the scriptures. Yeah, and all the villagers would come. Even now, to a large extent, that's still there in India. Some, people come to a village, and all the villagers, they come out and they hear. Yeah. Of course, this has been challenged today in India, we could say. The young people have been mesmerized by the glitter of the West, the so-called glitter. But this will completely satisfy us, and guaranteed if we should go clubbing in this way. Yeah, the cinema should be watching how the deities are worshipped. Yeah, dancing, we can clap our hands, and no need for smoking and drinking. Yeah, Prabhupada mentions all that nonsense will be forgotten. Of course, this is sattvic living. In the West, it's very passionate. So there's all these wild distractions. These crazy, because they doesn't call it music. But cinemas, what type of things do you watch in the cinema? Yeah, people killing each other, illicit sex, we all know. Yeah. But all your heart can be, Rupa Goswami is saying here, my dear friend, if you still have any desire to enjoy the company of your friends in this material world, don't look upon Krishna. Yeah. So Prabhupada's directing us towards worshipping Krishna. Yeah. So very nice here. Any questions on this or any comments? Of course, according to your situation, you may have pictures at home, you may have a picture altar. But in essence, the point is that we should learn to wind down, or we should learn to take shelter of Krishna. That's what we should do. Yeah, this is our entertainment now. This is our party. Yeah, because like next weekend, there's going to be a party at our temple. It's going to be a whole big scene going, a whole big clubbing scene. It's going to be It's going to be I think 12-hour kirtan, Saturday and Sunday. So you can come to the dancing party in front of Sri Sri Radha Londonishwar. This is the idea. Yeah. Anyway, I'm sure some of you can relate to this to one degree or another. I mean, I used to be into these things before I joined the temple, clubbing and that start thing, but I don't miss them. That's for sure. I ain't looking back. Sorry?
We can't imagine, Murli Prabhu. We cannot imagine that.
Good. That's a good sign. Yeah. That's good. So, yeah, now, yeah, rather, you want a night out on Saturday? You want a Saturday night out? Go on Harinam again. Yeah.
Actually, yesterday they were in Leicester Square. There were so many people dancing. had little space. I was squeezed. So many people joined, and it was like a real party. More aesthetic than discotheque.
Yeah. And even there you go. We go into an area where it's everything really powerfully presented to attract a sense of light and sound. But when the Harinam comes by, that's obviously where the happening's going on. This is where it's really happening with these Hare Krishnas here. That's joining dancing. Yeah. So here, worshipping the deity. All right. Any questions or comments to share, please do. So the next one is here in Srimad Bhagavatam again, comes up. So let's, Sophie Mataji, you can read again this one for us.
Hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. My dear foolish friend, I think that you have already heard some of the auspicious Srimad Bhagavatam, which decries seeking the results of fruitive activities, economic development and liberation. I think that now it is certain that gradually the verses of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam describing the pastimes of the Lord will enter your ears and go into your heart.
Yeah, thank you. So Rupa Goswami, he's giving a similar metaphor here. It's in page 109, you can see. He's calling his friend foolish. Okay? His foolish friend. Yeah. Having heard Srimad Bhagavatam, thereby being completely indifferent to these so-called wonderful activities he mentioned, like Dharma, Artha, Karma, and Moksha. Yeah. So he's instructing us to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah. So in other words, the four goals of human life, which is Dharma, Artha, Karma, and Moksha, become insignificant in comparison to the pastimes of the Lord that enter into one's heart. And he mentions specifically here the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which describes the wonderful Leela of Krishna. Yeah. So again, here in regards to bhava, when one, in other words, when one denounces or one becomes detached from even the principle of moksha, that's one of the characteristics of bhava. Yeah. Moksha lakuta krit, as we described in the beginning chapters. You know, there's two symptoms of sadhana, two symptoms of bhava, two symptoms of prema. So moksha lakuta krit means it pows into insignificance the goal of moksha. Yeah. So he's mentioning here that hearing, especially the 10th canto, can arouse ecstasy. So whenever the word ecstasy is used, it's referring to the stage of bhava. Again, even in a beginner. Yeah. This is the results from hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. Shall we go on? Next slide. Okay, there you go. Serving a devotee. Okay. Shobha, if I Shobha, are you with us? You can read this.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you. Yeah.
Serving a devotee. It is very astonishing that since I have seen this personality of Godhead, who is washed by the tears of my eyes, there is shivering of my body, and he has made me a failure in executing my material duties. Since seeing him, I cannot remain silently at home. I wish to go out to him always. Thank you.
Nice, sir. Yeah. So Prabhupada mentions that as soon as one is fortunate to contact the devotee, this is what being like here, it says serving devotee. This is what comes from serving a devotee. Yeah? One becomes immediately eager to hear about Krishna, to learn about Krishna. Prabhupada mentions, or in other words, to become fully Krishna conscious. Yeah. So some of you may be able to relate to this into one degree or another when you became attracted to Krishna. You know. Yeah. Sorry, keep speaking about myself, but I remember when I became attracted to Krishna consciousness, everyone tried to convince me otherwise. But I wasn't interested. I was already too late. I already read some books. I'd met devotees. I would engage in self-service. My mother couldn't persuade me. My father couldn't persuade me. My sister couldn't persuade me. And the friends I told couldn't know. So, yes, this is the result of serving a devotee. Yeah. So, in other words, Rupa Goswami is describing the rich devotional sentiments of a devotee in whose heart the Lord has appeared. Yeah? So this is why tears are coming from the eyes and the shivering of the body, because the Lord is making his presence known to a devotee. And that will, this will be the result. Maybe a failure in executing material duty. Now that has to be understood as well in correct context, because there's also described that a devotee is not negligent in regards to their material duties. But in some circumstance, it may manifest like this. But this is perhaps the stage of bhava, where one becomes completely, detached, or one can completely loses all inspiration. This has been more for those who may, go to Vrindavan, they give up everything, Any questions on that? Let me just make this more clear. Let me read from Dhanadhar Swami, who gives wonderful commentary on this. This verse exemplifies how one can achieve bhava by seeing the form of the Lord. However, the actual purport is that association with devotees, those who are bhava bhaktas, has tremendous potency to inspire one's Krishna consciousness. So, in other words, this is illustrating the efficacy of serving a devotee. Yeah. So Prabhupada mentions that one is fortunate to contact a pure devotee. Again, the example comes up with Prabhupada, isn't it? How many persons just by hearing and coming in contact with Prabhupada completely changed their life? Yeah. So, in other words, another symptom of bhava, which we will be going over the 9 symptoms of bhava. That's a chapter that's coming up. And 2 of those symptoms, one of them is samupkanta, which means eagerness, and the other one is avyakta kalatvam, which means one doesn't waste time. Yep. One's heart just is always going towards Krishna. At any point of time, one is absorbed in Krishna. Yep. One doesn't waste time. Time is a gift by which Krishna which a devotee uses to hear and chant about Krishna. This is stages of bhava. Okay, so that's serving devotee. Next one. Let's pranas. Who haven't called on pranas yet? P-R-A-N-A. This might not be your initiated name, so you have to forgive me. If you want to call me by your initiated name, you have to change your name.
That's all right. I'm not initiated yet.
Okay, just now go. Yeah, you can read this first.
Chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. It is said that saints have been able to hear the vibrating strings of a veena in the hands of Narad, who is always singing the glories of Lord Krishna. Now the same sound vibration has entered my ears and I am always feeling the presence of a Supreme Personality. Gradually, I am becoming bereft of all attachment for material enjoyment.
Okay, so this is virakti, which is another symptom of bhava, where one is detached from all sensual enjoyment, from the material, from attachment for material enjoyment. This is another symptom of bhava. Yeah. So he mentions that kirtan can evoke this, even within a neophyte. Yeah. And often it does just that. When someone accidentally or intentionally comes into the kirtan of devotees, it can have a profound effect on their life. Yeah? And they can become, all of a sudden, lose interest in the material world. Very powerful. And again, residing in Mathura, just in case we haven't got this point yet. Here it comes again. So let's have Krishna Gopal, you can read this for us, please. You're there.
I'm here.
You're here. Oh,
residing in Mathura. Oh, I wish I could be there. I remember the Lord standing by the banks of the Yamuna River, so beautiful amid the Kadamba trees. So beautiful amid the Kadamba trees, where many birds are chirping in the gardens, and these impressions are always giving me transcendental realization of beauty and bliss.
Yeah. Okay. So again, this is some interesting notes here. So this is this proves in of itself that these are transcendental. These places are situated transcendentally. Yeah, because they couldn't have this effect. Yeah. Like if you go to, for instance, you may go shopping to South Bromley, then you're not going to be transcendentally affected. Yeah. If you go to Sainsbury's or you go wherever you want to go shopping, wherever you go here, then you're not going to be, it's not going to transform you. If you go here, it's a good chance it's going to transform you. Yeah. It's going to, it's going to have some major transformations within. Okay, any questions on that? Another note here from Dhanaraj Swami, very interesting, is that we should, these statements, sometimes it may appear that it's overestimated, but actually we should never consider that it's just a poetic overestimation. It's not. It's actual a fact. It's actual factual. Yeah. Now, the examples is given of the Kumaras who became devotees simply by described in different ways. One time, Prabhupada describes it smelling the incense in the temple. Also, there's a description of them smelling the scent of the tulsi leaves, which is coming from the lotus feet of the Lord. Yeah. And so, yeah, Bilva Mangala Thakur, when he heard about Krishna, he immediately, as you know the story, he gave up attachment to Chintamani, his girlfriend, and he attained perfection like that. Yeah. And here, I can read this here. Read here. One should execute the prescribed duty of Varna and Ashram as long as he has not developed spontaneous attachment for hearing about my pastimes and activities. Yeah. So let's go through this a little bit briefly, because I do want to, we should complete the next chapter as well. Now, some people will say that by following Varna and Ashram, one following the principles of Varna and Ashram, one can come to perfection, for the same perfection reached by devotional service. Yeah. Now, this is not accepted by our acharyas. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his conversation with Ramananda Roy, when he asked Ramananda Roy what's the goal of life, then this is one of the first things that Ramananda Roy explains. about being situated in Varna and ashram. So he asked him to go further. He doesn't reject it, but he asked him, yeah, okay, but can you go further? So in other words, what's being explained here, that this is external. Yeah. Now sometimes we need to be situated. The external is needed, especially if one hasn't developed attraction for hearing about Krishna. Yeah. But in essence, it's external. So he asked him to go further. Yeah. There's a higher principle. Now also in Bhagavad Gita, we hear that Krishna says in 1866, once you give up all other principles, which he thus explained to Arjuna, or which Arjuna has explained to Krishna, give up all these and just simply act under Krishna's instruction. And that will help one in achieving perfection. And then this verse here, that one should execute prescribed duties of Varna and ashram as long as one not develops spontaneous attachment to hearing about my pastimes and activities. So these things are actually meant to be for economic development. You could say even sense gratification and moksha. It's not the same as, so one cannot achieve the same perfection as engage in devotional service. Yeah. If you have any questions on this, you can please ask if it's not clear.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, please.
Just a contradiction here. This means that you cannot develop attachment to hearing about Krishna and his activities unless you are retired. You are not into any varnas or ashrams.
Yeah, it's good we asked the question. Yeah, very good. Not exactly. Execution of your duties according to your social position, say that's what it means by varna and ashram, is good, but it's not going to bring you to love of God. Yeah. So while we're situated in our occupation, in our varna, and in our ashram, we have to be engaged in devotional service. Yeah. That's why when Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, he explains the duties of the varnas and ashrams. And then he describes, unless one worships the all-pervading Supreme Personality of Godhead, then ultimately one will fall down. So everyone in Varna and Ashram, it's supposed to be, one should be internally progressive towards developing attraction for Krishna. And that's done through hearing and chanting. Yeah. So, but if one is, see, the misconception for some is that, yeah, I'll just be executing your Varna and Ashram duties. But if there's no program of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, then it's considered Shama Eva Hi Kevalam. It's a waste of time. Is that more clear, yeah?
Yes, thank you. Yes. Yeah.
Yes, but for the unregulated, for someone who's not regulated, for someone who has no attraction to Krishna, it's advised that they situate themselves solidly in Varna, in a particular Varna, in a particular ashram. And then, when that's done, they can get on with the most important thing, which is developing love of Krishna. Yeah? Does that help? Is that clear?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yeah, please. Yes.
Is it possible to, use, say the same sentence saying that one should not execute prescribed duties when he has developed spontaneous attachment for hearing about my pastimes and activities?
Yeah, nice. Good question. Now, there's external and there's internal. So the development of spontaneous loving devotion to Krishna is an internal affair. Externally, one will continue to engage in Varna in their position in Varna and Ashram. Yeah, but they'll be very detached. But they will do their duty, one, to set the example for others. Yeah. So is that clear? Yeah. So development of love for Krishna, say bhava, prema, and attraction to Krishna, does not automatically mean that one should then give up Varna and Ashram. Yeah. I mean, even Krishna was situated in the Varna and an Ashram. Okay, it was sometimes argued which Varna he was in. But yeah, so is that clear? It doesn't mean that in Krishna consciousness we start getting a taste for Krishna, then we leave our wife, leave our house. That's it. No, you just execute your duties, but you will do it naturally with a mood of detachment. Yeah, but internally, your affection for the holy name is the most prominent thing for you. So one is external, Varna and Ashram, but if one thinks that just by engaging Varna and Ashram, I will come to perfection, you won't, unless it's accompanied by Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu. Otherwise, as Bhagavatam says, Shrama eva kevalam. Even if you execute your Varna and Ashram perfectly, your life will be a failure if you haven't developed love for Krishna. All right? Okay, any other questions on that?
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, let's bring up chapter 14. So let's dive into this chapter. Okay, so devotional qualification. Now the end of chapter 13, as we just described, Rupa Goswami was analyzing the relationship between various different types of practices and in Varna and Ashram and pure devotional service. So this chapter just continues where he's going to analyze these two words which you're familiar with called Jnana and Vairagya, which means knowledge and renunciation. And some very interesting things come up here. And he quotes beginning here. Well, this is the essence of it, really. Jnana and Vairagya are suitable for entering bhakti, being somewhat useful in the beginning of bhakti, but they are not considered angas of bhakti in of themselves. Jnana means knowledge, and Vairagya means detachment. So knowledge, for example, dehinosmin yada dehi, we are not this body. That is Jnana, yeah? And then that in of itself leads to detachment. So, but it's not Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smara, Prana, Sevan. It's not an anga of bhakti. Rupa Goswami hasn't specifically mentioned Jnana and Vairagya as being an anga of bhakti. He's mentioned 64 items. These two were not included. Yeah. Now, because some scholars, they recommend that they're important factors for elevating one to devotional service. Okay. But interestingly, here it's describing what the conclusion is that it's not. They are favorable for achieving a footing to make ourselves more steady in Krishna consciousness. So, as described here, they may be accepted in the beginning. On Bhagavatam, there's lots of Jnana and Vairagya. There's lots of knowledge about the miseries of the material world. Lord Kapila, all over the Bhagavatam, it's described about Adi Bhautik, Adi Atmik, and Adi Devik, described about the, for instance, the dangers of lust, the dangers of anger, and there's examples of that, of persons who have fallen prey to lust and anger. and a detailed description of the material world. It's all to give you, so to achieve a footing. That may be good in the beginning, but ultimately, devotion should become dependent upon devotion. I don't know. In other words, that will become more clear. Let's just go through a few of these slides. Let me just read. This is a quote from Jiva Goswami. That means that they are suitable at the stage of giving up attachment for other objects. When attachments have been given up and the person begins practicing bhakti, jnana and vairagya become insignificant. So when beginning bhakti, or after beginning bhakti, thinking of these processes will distract the person from bhakti. So in other words, their goal is not just to be gyanis and renunciates. Yeah, our goal is devotion to Krishna. There's a question coming up here. Okay, perhaps I'll have to field that question later. Okay, Nayan Prabhu. It's not quite on this subject, but now I just want to make sure I finish this chapter today. So if we have time at the end, we'll come to that question. All right, now let's go a bit further. Now here's the reason why. Jiva Goswami says, because jnana and vairagya generally make the hard harsh. Yeah? The authoritative devotees have concluded that bhakti alone, whose nature is very tender, is the cause of entering into bhakti. Nice, huh? Bhakti alone is very tender. And that in itself causes entry into bhakti. So, for instance, if I had put a picture here, I would have found a picture of a yogi in the Himalayas standing on one leg with two arms in the air in the driving monsoon rain. He's standing there, still like anything. He's on intense sadhana of practice, not to identify with the feelings or with the sensations and the dualities of the material world. That's why they put themselves into very difficult situations, surround themselves in the heat of fire, stand on one leg, so that they can then conclude that what they are experiencing is not factual, and they are and they have nothing, or they are soul. In essence, that's what they're trying to. So they're denying all emotions. They're trying to deny all feelings. But that just makes a hard heart. But that won't be very good for bhakti, because bhakti is about having a soft heart, having a tender heart. Yeah. So they can be not very, so they're not favorable actually for entering into loving devotional service of love. Now, they maybe play a role in the beginning, that's for sure. Yeah. Now there's a question, nice question here. Perhaps I'll ask this question. But isn't it? I'll just paraphrase the question which Jiva Goswami asks. But isn't it like when we're executing devotional service, we meet difficulties, isn't it? We meet challenges. We meet trials. So won't that also make the hard heart? Because we have to make lots of effort. Won't that make the heart hard? The heart hard. Hard. Yeah. Anyone can maybe able to, maybe difficult this one, to guess how Jiva Goswami might answer this. You understood the question, yeah? Okay, we've understood about the yogis, but even in the activities of bhakti, it takes effort. So won't that make the heart hard? Right. Anyone has any pointers on this? I mean, must admit, yeah, someone?
Purifies the heart, Prabhuji. as opposed to make it hard? I would hazard a guess.
Yeah, you're not far wrong there. It actually purifies the heart. Yeah, purify the heart means it makes it softer. So Jiva Goswami mentions that bhakti, the nature of bhakti is it's very tender. Because actually what bhakti is, it's hearing and chanting about Krishna, his name, fame, form, qualities, and pastimes. Yeah. So he concludes that bhakti should be performed with the desire, or I could say, nice answer to that, to purify the desire to make the heart melt in relationship with the Lord. Okay? All right, so that's a nice little side argument that Jiva Goswami brings up and then he answers. Yeah. Okay. So no, it won't. It will purify us. And because while we're executing our devotional service, yes, because of our different attachments, different anarthas, it may be difficult, but all the way there's kirtan, all the way there's association of devotees, you know, all the way there's hearing about, like this month we're going to be hearing about Krishna lifting Govardhan Hill. It's all made up of Krishna's name, fame, qualities, and pastimes. So actually, no, it doesn't make the hard part. The effort to engage in bhakti makes it soft, unlike the yogis. Yeah. Did we grab that logic? Yeah. And here's a quote from 11th canto. My dear Uddhava, for persons who are seriously engaged in my service, the cultivation of philosophical speculation and artificial renunciation are not very favorable. When the person becomes my devotee, he automatically attains the fruits of the renunciation of material enjoyment, and he gets sufficient knowledge to understand the absolute truth. Yeah. So let me just check the next slide. I think. Okay, comes next. Yeah. So, in other words, by engaging in devotion, by engaging in devotional service, knowledge will come. And then from that knowledge will automatically come or detachment from the world. Yeah. So we're not trying to become great Gyanis or great yogis. So that's what Rupa Goswami is making this specific point here. And don't forget, in the context of Rupa Goswami over 500 years ago, there's probably many yogis even. Well, there is now, I suppose, but many yogis in coming to Mathura, going to Vrindavan, and doing serious austerities to try and understand the absolute, or try and come in contact with the Supreme. Yeah. But actually, just the activities of bhakti in of themselves is all we need. Yeah. And again, direct verse from the Bhakti Vismriti Sindhu. If a person has the taste for worshipping the Lord, even if he has strong material attractions, will be for the most part destroyed during sadhana without resorting to vairagya. Okay, any questions on these points here? Now, we followed our regulative principles. So we could say, in one sense, that's a statement of vairagya. That's a statement of detachment, isn't it? We learned quite early on. But it's not something that we emphasize when people first come in contact with bhakti. What's the first thing we emphasize? Say someone comes to a temple or someone shows interest, what's the first thing we're going to emphasize?
Prashadam and then chanting.
Prashadam. Yeah, we emphasize samosas, halava. Oh, chanting, yeah. We emphasize bhakti. Because we know if they engage in bhakti, then everything else will fall in line. Yeah. So, for example, if we told every person that came into the Sunday feast, okay, welcome to the Sunday program. Are you following the regulative principles? You have to follow the regulative principles. Not the first thing you're going to say, otherwise they just turn around and run in the other direction. No, we just introduce them to devotees, to sadhu sangha, to the shadam. Yeah. And then these other things will automatically, it may take a bit of time, depends on various circumstances. But we know if they take up beads and chanting, then that's a good sign. They're going to eventually be able to follow the regulative principles. Yeah. Sometimes in the beginning, there may be some, one is unsteady. There may be some, could say, lapse in those, but eventually one will come to the stage of being steady. So yeah, you follow that. There's a few notes from Jiva Goswami here, which perhaps. Okay, I'll just more or less mention that. There's a well-known verse in this regard. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prapayojataha Janatu Asu Bhairagyam Gana Chathat Hoitukam. So this is directly mentioned in the Bhagavatam. By rendering devotional service, one automatically acquires knowledge and detachment. It comes. It comes. There's no need to separately focus on these two. It will come. By cleaning the floor, by cleaning the temple, by packing up prashadam to get distributed for homeless people, by riding a rickshaw with prashadam in it, by making garlands, by making a schedule for a festival, by all the things we do, by organizing a program. Yeah, you'll find yourself automatically becoming, even one sense, so naturally that you will not notice it, you could say. Only when you look back on your life and you think, wow, I was really attached to that. I was really struggling with that. But now, what was I? Now it seems to be natural. Because bhakti. Yeah. Now, Yukta Vairagya, you're familiar with this term, I'm sure. Most of you are. Yukta Vairagya. This is correct, where we're speaking about renunciation or detachment. Another word is Vairagya. So Yukta, Rupa Goswami explains it very interestingly, how to connect, what it means actually. What does real renunciation mean? Yukta means to connect, when it's connected with the Lord. And this well-known verse here, just a translation. I think this might be one of your memorization verses. Yeah. When one is not attached to anything, but at the same time accepts anything in relationship to Krishna, one is rightly situated above possessiveness. On the other hand, one who rejects everything, so say the yogi, without knowledge of its relationship to Krishna, is not as complete in his renunciation. Yeah. So he mentions that we have to be detached from material sense enjoyment, but we should accept everything enjoyable, which is in relationship to Krishna. And as we heard prashadam came out as how we attract people. Yeah. So Prabhupada mentions in the purple actually, in the explanation there. He mentions eating is necessary, and one wants some palatable dishes. Yeah, we want some palatable food stuff. So, but in that case, it's for the satisfaction of Krishna rather for the satisfaction of the tongue. So he mentions palatable dishes may be prepared and offered to Krishna. So that then it is renunciation. So he says, let the palatable dishes be prepared. But unless they're offered to Krishna, one should not accept them for eating. So Prabhupada gives that example. The vow of rejecting anything which is not offered to Krishna is actually renunciation. Yeah, it's quite amazing actually. We kind of take it for granted. You know, say if for instance, you know, you sit in the temple and someone brings up some nice prashadam. What can you say? Everyone likes pizza or something. You know, you bring up pizza, and before you start serving it, I just want to tell everyone that this has not been offered. No devotee will take it. They won't want to take it, even if it's the cake or whatever it is. They won't take it because it's not been offered to Krishna. That's renunciation. Yeah, you know, you can imagine like a non-devotee comes in for the first time and is sitting next to the devotees, and the announcer's made. It's not being offered, and no one takes it. You think, what, you know, what's the problem, man? You get the idea? So, no, you want, often in the ashram here, sometimes there's some prashadam that's left for the devotees or some fruit or something. And the question is, has it been offered to Krishna? Because no one will touch it. Let's see, is it boga or prashadam? Oh, it's boga. Oh, I won't touch it. Of course, some devotees get carried away and they can't control their senses, and they see something and they eat it. It hasn't been offered to them. Oh my God, just said boga. So you get the idea. This is actual renunciation. I'm not going to touch it unless it's been offered to Krishna. I don't care what it is. I will not eat it. Yeah, that's real renunciation. Yeah. Now, Prabhupada said, let the palatable dishes come, but let them be offered to Krishna. But yogis, they won't do anything like, they don't eat, basically. They may eat only air or only dry leaves. Yeah. But that's not actual yukta, that's not real renunciation. Interesting concept. And that brings on the whole subject of which Prabhupada goes on to describe here, of utilizing the world in Krishna's service. Yeah. So he mentions here, which he used to use a dictating machine for the Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah. I think here Prabhupada also mentions about, here, he was sometimes criticized for flying. You know, he was criticized by people, yogis and gyanis. Yeah. So his mood is yukta vairagya. Let's use it in Krishna's service. Yeah. Okay. Now we have to be careful. I think that's mentioned, that comes up. We should, as I mentioned it here, we should be careful that we're not using things in Krishna's service which is beyond our ability. So we have to be careful of that. That the things we are using in Krishna's service do not use us in its service. So we have to be a little bit careful how we apply it. Yeah, yukta vairagya. Like there was one. Okay, I was going to not mention it, but I will. It's just come to mind. There was a few years ago, one devotee was doing book distribution. He was visiting the temple, and he specifically was going to all the prostitute places in Soho to distribute books. So, one point he didn't come back. Yeah. And trying to, you have to be careful at the same time of this yukta vairagya. You have to be careful as well. You have to be really honest, you know. Like this Mercedes sports car, you know, using it in Krishna's service. You know, so we have to judge according to our level of advancement or where we're situated, okay? All right, any questions on that? And here, a few additional points here. That bhakti which is accomplished by dependence on wealth, followers, or other objects cannot be considered an anga of uttama bhakti because it destroys the pure nature of bhakti, which is situated far away from bhakti. Yeah. So in other words, this is an instruction, or Prabhupada mentions that spiritual master, one shouldn't be carried away by material things that come, because it will come. Wealth, for instance, large number of followers. Yeah. Prabhupada mentions, just read here. But sometimes if a spiritual master is not properly authorized and only on his own initiative becomes a spiritual master, he may be carried away by the accumulation of wealth and large number of disciples. He is not a very high grade. His is not a very high grade of devotional service. If a person is carried away by such achievements, then his devotional service becomes slackened. One should therefore strictly adhere to the principles of the civic succession. So, in other words, a wealthy person may give a large donation, say, to build a temple. Now, it's definitely devotional service, but he should not think that all the activities that's done are his devotional service that's done in the temple. No, he also has to continue engaging in devotion. Some of those times gives that comment. And basic rules of conduct. Okay, 1 second. You need to mute. I have to mute in 1 second.
No.
Oh. Okay. Basic rules of conduct, yama, rules of cleanliness, and other actions appear automatically in those who are extremely dedicated to Krishna. They are not included as angas of bhakti. Okay. So this has also not been included in the 64 items of sadhana. Yeah. Rules of cleanliness. Yeah. So there's this verse. I should think about this verse here. Shasti Bhakti Bhagavate Kinchanai. So again, by the activities of bhakti, these things will come. Yeah. So they're not included. It's not. Do you follow this? The 64 angas that Rupa Goswami gave, he didn't include rules of conduct. Yeah. Like in the 7th canto, it's described 24 qualities of a human being, for a human being. So he's not included that here, because the idea is that from bhakti it comes. Now, at the same time, we should be attentive, and we should be eager to develop proper conduct. It doesn't mean that, oh, we don't have to bother so much. Everything's going to come as a consequence of my chanting. Therefore, I can live in a tip. Therefore, I cannot wash my bead bag for 5 years. Therefore, I don't have to be concerned about this. I don't have to be concerned about that. No. We should want to situate ourselves in good rules of conduct, in sattvic living, because that will help us. That specifically because we don't have any spontaneous attraction, that will help us to actually chant. If we live in a sattvic environment, that will help us who are not spontaneously attracted to Krishna to chant the holy name. So you follow that? Sometimes that this shouldn't be understood when these statements are made. Rules of conduct have not been come. Therefore, it's a bit like watering, priming the pump. You heard this time? This term's called priming the pump. In India, they have these hand pumps, And sometimes to get the water up, you have to throw a bucket of water down the well, down the pump, and then everything starts moving then. So we have to prime the pump. So it's good for us to understand. We hear about Lord Ram and his wonderful character. We hear about the 21 qualities of a human being, the Srimad Bhagavatam, and we should study them, and we should want to act according to them. That will help us to chant the holy name. But then the holy name in itself will then manifest these things spontaneously within us as divine qualities will come. Doesn't mean, again, before that stage we know we live an unregulated, unclean life. No, we might not get very far. All right. Any questions about that? Okay. What's this? Ekanga and Anekanga. Okay, what's this about? Forgot myself. I don't read the slide. Okay. Bhakti, taking shelter of one principal anga. Oh yeah. Or many angas according to one's desire. Practice with steadiness brings about the desired result, bhava and prema. Okay. So Shravanam, Ketanam, Vishnu, Smara, Parasevanam, Atanam, Bandhanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmani, Vedanam. These are 9 characteristics or angas of pure devotional service. So one can take up one or many. And there was that discussion, that question we had earlier about one's inclination for, say, reading or chanting. I gave that example to begin with. Some devotees may be attracted to different angas of bhakti. Yeah. But the overriding one, which we mentioned there, is always chanting the holy name. Yeah, that is never absent. Yeah. So Rupa Goswami mentioned these 9 angas which I mentioned, which is given by Prahlad Maharaj in the 7th canto: hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, worshipping the deity, praying, carrying out orders, serving Krishna as a friend, and sacrificing everything for him. So any one of them can actually give one perfection, can bring one to bhava and then prema. And then, just to finish with, I put some pictures up yesterday of there's devotees who personify each of these 9 angas of bhakti. Now this might be a question that you might have. It's often a question. List the 9 devotees, or which devotee represents this anga. Yeah, so for example, Shravanam, Kirtanam, hearing and chanting is exemplified. First, chanting is exemplified in the person of Sukadeva Goswami. This is one of my favorite pictures of Bhagavatam, actually. I really like this picture. This is Maharaj Parikshit, yeah? Sukadeva, he's on his knees, you know, submissively inquiring from Sukadeva. And all the sages here stood up, paying respects, you know. So Sukadeva Goswami personifies achieving perfection through Shravanam or through Kirtanam. Did I get that right? Yeah, and Maharaj Parikshit through hearing. Yeah, so chanting and hearing. Prahlad Maharaj through remembering the Lord. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. He was always in deep internal pact of love, of remembrance of the Lord in every situation that he was in. He always remembered the Lord. And he was put in some pretty intense situations, as we know. But never, always, he was wrapped in thoughts of the Lord. Yeah, anyway, we won't tell the whole story. You know, Prahlad Maharaj, what he went through. Yeah. He never forgot the Lord in all of that, in all those situations. Yeah. And given as Lakshmi is given as an example of serving Padashevanam, I think this is, of serving the lotus feet of the Lord. She's always situated, so she personifies that. Maharaj Prithu, this is a picture of Maharaj Prithu. This is at his coronation, I think. He's been gifted different things there. The Shiva is getting a star, like that. and something being offered here by the demigods. So he's specifically personified, was exemplary in temple worship, archana. And Akura, anyone can say what he personified, what he's known for? Akura?
Offering prayers.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, thank you. So offering prayers. So there's these beautiful prayers that he offers to Krishna, and that pleased Krishna, that touched Krishna's heart. So he attained perfection through that. And we know the story. This is when he was on his way, that fateful day when he went to Vrindavan, took Krishna away. That fateful day. Yeah. And he saw Krishna's footprints, and he went into ecstasy, was rolling on the ground, and he offered these spontaneous loving prayers. Yeah, so that's a Kura. And we're all gonna, what about, who is this?
Hanuman.
Hanuman. So what does he represent, or what does he personify?
Dasyam.
Yeah, service. Yeah. 100%, 110%, million% sold out in the service of Ram. His mind, body, and words. Didn't know anything else but service to Ram. Hanuman ki jai. Hanuman. And Arjuna?
He was a friend to Krishna.
Friend, yeah. Shaka. Very intimate relationship. There's Krishna. He's a rickshaw walla of Arjuna, a chariot driver, driving Arjuna's chariot. They had a very friendly relationship. They would relax with each other, laying down, with each other, and resting and joking with each other. A very intimate friend, Arjuna and Krishna. Yeah, and this one represents, finally, this one is
Vamana.
Is it
no,
Bali?
yeah, you said that last week as well. No, it's Bali Maharaj.
Bali.
Oh.
Yeah, Bali Maharaj. Yeah, and he represents Atma Nivedanam. Everything he gave. He gave everything he had, and then he gave his very own self. Atma Nivedanam. Everything. Nothing left. Absolutely nothing. Not one penny he left. Nothing. Gave it all to Krishna. Everything. Atma Nivedanam. And then depended on him completely. Put himself completely in Lord's hands. Atma Nivedanam. And then, why is this picture here of Maharaj Ambarish? Just to finish, we'll finish on this. He's given as an example of someone who engaged in all of these angas. Savai Mana Krishna Pada Vindayo, Vachas Kuntu Kodana Varane, Hare Mande Madina, Shu, Rum Chakra Asud Katoda Ye, Kundaliga Das, to show as these 3 verses that Prabhupada quotes quite often, 2 times in the Bhagavad Gita, in various places in the Bhagavatam and the Pacific pastime. He engaged everything. He did all of these. He engaged his whole body, mind, words, desires, everything. He engaged all of his senses. Were engaged in the service of the Lord. So he was a Mat-Pada devotee. Yeah, nice pastime. Who is this at his feet?
Si, Duvasi Maharaj.
Yeah, Duvasa Muni. Yeah, he went on a round the world trip, round the universe trip, being chased by Sudarshan. He came back to the person that he offended, Maharaj Ambarish. Okay. So thank you for your kind attention, everyone. I was thinking we might finish half an hour early today, but we didn't. Anyway, we finished 3 minutes early. So we finished early. So thank you, everyone. That completes chapter 14. So next, the first half an hour, we're going to have your little test from chapters 2 to 14. I'm sure you'll do very well. So thank you everyone for your kind attention. Let me just, any final questions?
Can I ask? Go on, please.
Sorry? There was a question there? Okay. All right, so we're...
So someone else was speaking. Prabhuji, I wanted to ask a question in terms of last week when you were speaking about the aparad, you gave the example of sati. So I just wanted to ask, how does that relate to Shringi in terms of the offense that was made to his father in connection with that?
Shingy, can you just take me through that? I mean, just to remind me.
Yeah, I think last week you were saying that because of Daksha's offense, then Sati, she gave up her body by making it go on fire. So I was thinking, like at the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, when the offense is made inadvertently, where it feels like that the Brahmin boy.
Okay, I'm with you now. Yeah, so Shingy is the son of the young boy who cursed Maharaj Parikshit. Yeah, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, just carry on.
So I just wanted to like compare the two examples, maybe some confusion in my mind, because he felt that they're a Brahmana family and his father's been cursed. So he took an action as well. But then that was considered as not a good thing, possibly to offend a king. Whereas in Sati's case, she gave up her body, but that was a right thing to do.
Yeah, it's called, you could say, time, place, and circumstance. It was definitely unbecoming for an exalted devotee like Maharaj Parikshit to actually offer that insult to, what was the name of the sadhu? Shingi was the son. The name of the, anyway, yeah. So it's definitely unbecoming of such an exalted devotee, such a pure devotee, to actually do that. As we know, he was overcome by thirst and hunger. So then if we look at the circumstances that it led to, what did it lead to? He's giving up being a king. He's sitting down on the bank of the Ganges or Yamuna, and then hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from Sukadeva Goswami. So ultimately, it was arranged by the Lord as Arjuna's bewilderment before the battle was ultimately arranged by the Lord so he could speak Bhagavad Gita. So in the same way, that whole pastime, that whole episode was ultimately engineered by the Lord. And the circumstances were to facilitate the hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam. So time, place, and circumstance. Circumstance with Sati was different, had a different purpose and a different lessons to be learned. Yeah? Is that okay?
Thank you, appreciate it.
No problem, yeah. So thank you everyone, and see you next week. Hari Bol.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Hari.
Hare Krishna.
Goswami ki jai. Nectar of Devotion ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol. Okay, I'm going to press the red button. Then we're all going to disappear. Hare Krishna. Gauranga. End meeting.